Back to me.
It's a fast-moving show, this breakfast.
Indeed. Australian farmers have welcomed a breakthrough in world trade negotiations, which will see $15 billion of agricultural export subsidies abolished. Agriculture Minister Barnaby Joyce joins us now live from Tamworth in northern New South Wales. A warm welcome to you, Barnaby Joyce.
Yeah, good morning, Emma, and you're so lucky to be sitting next to Michael.
Oh, come on, Barnaby.
I might just park that to one side while we continue our chat. Now, this deal is being hailed as one of the most significant outcomes on agriculture in the WTO's 20-year history. Is that how you see it?
Look, I think it's important that it shows, Emma, a step towards removing subsidies. As we all know, Australia hardly subsidised at all. There's very, very little in the way of subsidies on Australian agricultural product, virtually none. The only country in the world that does less, I think, is New Zealand. What this is about is export subsidies, and what that is, Emma, is when they sell the product from the United States or Europe, they actually help the person who is buying the product pay for the product. So it's pretty hard at times for us to compete against them. So that they basically say, well, if we're selling it to this country, not only will we subsidise it and how we grow it, we'll also give you some money to buy the product off us. Now, they're saying they're going to remove that. A lot of it immediately, others in the next couple of years. Some big areas for us in that, Emma, would be sugar. That's a highly subsidised area. Rice, wheat, beef. So it's a good step in the right direction. There's no doubt about that.
Can you quantify at all the benefit to the Australian economy in dollar terms or in any other way of this particular measure being abolished?
Well, it's worth about $15 billion, Emma, globally. And I think that just the subsidies from Europe, the money that they allow other people or assist other people to buy their products, is worth about $8.7 billion. So what the portion of markets we pick up because of that, I don't know, are indeterminate at this point in time. But of course, it always makes it a benefit to us because it makes our product more affordable because we are not subsidised. So our wheat becomes more affordable, our sugar becomes more affordable, our rice becomes more affordable, and our beef becomes more affordable. And this sits on the back of the fact that we're getting record prices for these products, for beef, for sheep meat, turning around the wool market. Our grapes, wine, that's another subsidised area. We're getting a return in better wine prices, but this helps us.
Well, 162 countries or thereabout, watch out for that, they've agreed to remove agricultural export subsidies. But what about the tough import restrictions like those imposed? You mentioned sugar growers. The Americans guarantee their own cane growers a certain advantage in that market. Import quota restrictions and government guarantees, I think, provide the domestic growers in the US at least 85% market share. Getting rid of this measure doesn't address that, does it?
Well, no, it doesn't. There's a number of pillars, and with this agreement in Nairobi is the export subsidies. That is not, and it's not about internal domestic subsidies. But what it does acknowledge is that we're moving away from these subsidised arrangements. We're seeing that in the TPPs. We're seeing that in the free trade agreements. We've seen that in this agreement in Nairobi. And one of the reasons also for that, obviously, Emma, is subsidies cost a lot of money, and there's a lot of governments around the world at the moment who don't have money, and so they're trying to work out how to save money.
But the WTO's Doha round of negotiations, that was actually meant to have, those negotiations that have been going on for 14 years, they were actually meant to address that very issue, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, Emma, and it didn't get there. What we have to do is acknowledge that we actually have got a win on export subsidies. No one even, to be honest, Emma, I didn't even think we'd get that. So I think we've done extremely well to get what we've got, and now this also becomes a conduit to doing further negotiations, both bilaterally and in further sort of addendums to a Doha-type round where we can continue to address these other issues. And I think the economic conditions that are prevailing in Europe and America will actually assist us in a way, because what they're going to do is we'll be able to say to their respective treasuries, if you want to save some money, stop paying money to subsidise sections of your domestic economy which are clearly uncompetitive with other people.
Let's just touch on a couple of other issues. Will the government move to shift penalty rates in the way the Productivity Commission has recommended?
Well, let's wait for this 1,200-page report to be properly analysed. It's coming from the Productivity Commission. Their job is to be an honest broker without a view to what the emotion is or what the politics is. They say it as it is. What I can say is that the Fair Work Commission will now take these recommendations and make their own judgments as to how applicable they are. But it is fair enough to say, I think it'd be that there are business groups that are saying, well, look, we have positions where a coffee shop certainly wants to open on Sunday. There certainly are people who want to work there on Sunday, and there are certainly people who want to drink coffee on Sunday, but we can't do it under the current wage rates. And this is part of the discussion that needs to be had. Now, any changes that would be made would be taken to an election, and the Australian people themselves can make a judgment on it. But at this point in time, it's a report, and the Fair Work Commission will make its deliberations on it.
Are businesses in your community talking to you about this?
Yes, as recent as yesterday, I went and had a meeting with some of the businesses, and quite clearly they're saying, look, we can afford penalty rates at Saturday levels, but on Sunday levels, the way we deal with it is we just don't open up. Is that what you want? Because we've got people who want to work, we've got people who want to buy, and we want to be open, but we can't do it because the rates just don't make it affordable. And there are all other issues such as motels who say we just don't bother cleaning the rooms on Sunday because it's just not worth it. So we'll wait till Monday and clean them then, and if people want those rooms, then we don't have them to hire out on Sunday.
Tell us, what's your view on the fact now that the LNP has blocked Ian MacFarlane's bid to join the Nationals?
Well, that's a decision really for... what I do know is that the Groom Electorate Council overwhelmingly endorsed the move. What I do know is that in discussions that we previously had with the LNP, they were in support, or sections of the executive were in support. It was a very narrow vote, Emma. There was only, if one person had changed their vote at that executive level, it would have been a tied vote. I must admit, it did catch me offside slightly because this really was a vote for greater representation for regional Queensland. I didn't know why Queensland, having been the senator there, would vote against greater representation for Queensland, but that's a question for them. And
sorry, I was just going to say, why would that mean greater representation? He's already an MP in government, representing a rural constituency.
Well, we've always said all the way along that we think that regional Australia needs greater representation. Than the National Party is certainly underrepresented, and this gave a potential for a seat within Queensland with a highly competent member in Ian MacFarlane to have the potential to go into cabinet. And if that was the case, that they would have had greater representation or better representation at a higher level.
And what does this mean, do you think, now for Ian MacFarlane's own political future? Does he just remain a Liberal MP now with all the potential acrimony that might come with that?
Well, I'm not going to start second-guessing the views of Ian MacFarlane. I'll leave him to discuss his own future. I find him a decent person, a very competent advocate for his community at Groom. He's got the Toowoomba Range crossing there. They've got a new international airport opening up there, exporting agricultural product to the world. This person Ian MacFarlane has done a good job, and if people are doing a good job, then my personal hope is they'll continue on doing a good job.
And finally, the Uniting Church in Australia's president has today issued his Christmas message and launched a bit of an attack on the government for its asylum seeker policy, saying it's a shame on Australia to have people in detention in this country suffering. Will those people be in your thoughts and prayers this Christmas?
Well, look, we never want to do anything unnecessarily. We would always prefer there was a better way to do things. But the reality is, Emma, that we have to have strong borders. It's not just demanded by our side of politics, it's also now demanded by the other side of politics. The people on the street clearly say that one of the key attributes of a government, that one of the key desires is they want stronger borders and they want them as secure. They don't want people making their own arrangements. And this, of course, forces us to make sure that we have a tough process of dealing with people who do not go through the proper channels. And I know other people dispute what a proper channel is, but the proper channels of entry into our nation. And it's just the way it's got to work, otherwise it gets out of control. And we've seen other parts of the world where it is out of control, and we don't want that.
Barnaby Joyce, thanks so much for joining us, and a warm Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Yeah, thanks, Emma, and good luck with Michael.
Merry Christmas to you, Barnaby. Okay, see you. Thanks very much.
That was a bit unfair.
No, he's all right. He's all right. There'll be payback at some stage down the track.
No doubt.